Hi guys, good evening. Well, let's. Okay, can you see me or can you hear me? And can you see the screen? Please confirm. And also, can you hear me? All right. Thanks, Ujjwal. So let's start. We have a new batch, a couple of students joining us. They are joining us for DevOps. So what I thought is we'll start the DevOps, and on the bash scripting, we still have one more session left, which I thought I'll finish on Friday, but I could not. So the bash scripting, whatever is one last session left out, I'll cover it sometime during this weekend, maybe probably on a Saturday. All right. So that with that, we will actually finish the bash scripting also. Ideally, we are supposed to start DevOps today. Can you hear? Or you can't hear me? Yogita, can you hear me? Other guys? Afzal, can you hear me? Virag, thanks. Virag, Yogita, can you check your earphones or something? Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks very much. So the idea here is, let me start a new this thing. Let me open our old class notes and then we'll move on to this. Let me open that. This is our latest class notes. Where are we? 23, 27. It should be on third month. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Assuming this is our last notes, let's open a new one. It's going to be for today, which is 6th of March. Let's put a name for this. Resource. J3. And instead of new, I'm going to create a new folder called DevOps. Let's put it in DevOps. All right, and today we're going to have introduction. So today's session, we are officially starting DevOps. I'll give you an outline of what DevOps is, and then I'll tell you how we're going to proceed with DevOps and how we're going to mix it up with a little bit of AWS so that it becomes easy for all of us. All right, now to understand to give you a syllabus perspective, how many of you are have joined new guys for DevOps today? Can you guys just say a hello or hi in the chat room? if you have joined only for DevOps, you are not part of Linux and shell scripting. Just post a hi or something to the chat window, please. Hello, Naveen. Nitin, Yogita. That's good. Tejashvi, Uchal. That's good. That's good. Shiva. Hi, Shiva. Good. Looks like we have about 5 to 10 members. That's good. So this is, I'm assuming you guys have joined this for DevOps and AWS, or probably only DevOps. Both are okay in any case. The DevOps and AWS, what we have done so far is we have finished the Linux part. Now the Linux part, if you are little bit of Linux is required for DevOps and AWS. Nowadays, everything is in Linux. Now, if you are not, you missed Linux for some reason, or you want those videos, please check with the admin or just ping me. Also, you can join this Telegram group, just in case you want to have the information quickly passed out. Let me give you the Telegram group. Not sure how we normally send that link. I keep forgetting it every time. Anybody has this key, guys? The link? Yeah, that's a link, guys. Thanks, Naja. So please join this group. Now, if you are not sure about Linux or you have any questions about Linux, you let me know. We'll try to sort it out. But you would definitely need certain amount of Linux. I wouldn't say you don't need Linux, because both DevOps and cloud, irrespective of whether you are going directly for DevOps AWS job, or you are a full stack developer, Java full stack, Python, any full stack, then also you need certain amount of Linux. Now, the good thing about Linux is it's easy to learn. It's not really very difficult. There are about 50 to 60 commands and then another 10, 20 variations. So that will amount to about 100 commands, or I would say 50 core commands that we have learned. And a little bit of shell scripting. That is also pretty simple. If you know that, that's more than enough. We have to understand that you're not trying to be a Linux administrator. So you don't have to really learn in-depth Linux. But if you can spend a couple of weeks with Linux, any course, means whether it could be a video course or any other course, even the videos that we have done, any of these things, you go through one of these Linux courses, do a little bit of practice. We have a server over here. You can use that server. And then you will be more comfortable with DevOps and AWS. Because all the tools that we are going to learn, but DevOps especially, and many of the things that you will do on cloud, any cloud, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure Cloud, all of them will require certain amount of Linux. And when you are dealing with new products, new things, they always come first on Linux. They don't come first on Windows. So my suggestion is, if at all you are really serious about this whole DevOps, AWS or Python, any of the Java things, I suggest somehow you learn Linux, not necessarily in this class, but do not leave out Linux. It's not really that difficult. It's easy to learn. So go ahead and learn it. Okay. So having said that, let's move on to DevOps and AWS. Before we get into the actual what is DevOps kind of thing, let me give you an outline of what we're going to cover in this DevOps. Now, this is a video this is a PDF that is available to all of you. If not, let me post it to the Telegram. So that's a syllabus book, kind of. Let it upload. All right, so go ahead and download it and open it if you need to. But this is what the PDF is. It basically is a syllabus that we're going to cover tentatively in this course. So we have done the Linux part. We will do the AWS part. Before we get into AWS, we want to start DevOps. So we'll be starting DevOps first. We'll be dealing with these things. And after we introduce DevOps, we will go a little bit into AWS to understand what is cloud computing and those things. Venkat, you can join using this link on your own. So you go ahead and use this link. What is that? So anybody who wants to join the Telegram link, just go ahead and join it yourself. You can say direct joining. So what we are trying to do is, first, we will understand the introduction of what is DevOps and why DevOps is so popular, and some important keywords related to DevOps, like continuous integration, continuous delivery, that kind of thing. Now, once we understand this, we have to start doing the installations, these things. Now, before we get into any of these things, let me show you an image that will help you with DevOps. I'll pick up some images from the net. I think I can find it. What is CMP command in Linux? CMP is a compare command. When you have two strings, usually you can compare one string with another string. Similar commands, you have cut command, which will cut certain part of a string. You also have a paste command, which will paste 2 or 3 columns together. Those are more like, not used very much. After awk came into picture, or awk and set, basically compare, cut, paste commands were decommissioned, or people have started using it after set command came into picture. The set can do the same thing that compare, cut, paste can do. They are old commands. Nowadays, nobody uses it. Hold on. Let me give you this thing. I was using this image earlier. This is also a nice image. I think during the first initial days we have used it. Any of these images we can actually use. Let me put it in our images itself so that you can use it. DevOps toolchain, it's called. And also let me put it to visuals are really important, guys. So make sure you keep looking at these images. These images usually they sit in your brain. So when somebody says a word, DevOps, this is the image I usually get, or similar image. Let's see what DevOps is, or even before DevOps, we will see, how DevOps came into picture, all that stuff. But the reason why I showed you this thing is, as part of DevOps, you would be installing a lot of tools, guys. You would be installing Git, we'll be installing Jenkins, we'll be installing Maven as part of Jenkins. Then we'll be installing AWS, Docker, sorry. Then we'll be installing Kubernetes. All right. Some of these are part of our DevOps course. Other tools you might be seeing, Nagios is a monitoring tool. We don't usually, it's not used anymore. It's an old tool. People have moved to better tools like Jdbc and other things. Splunk is also a good tool. Datadog is a paid tool. Instead of Datadog, we can see New Relic. Probably I'll show that to you. Chef is not used anymore. Ansible is also gone almost. Instead of Ansible, people are using Terraform now. So we have included Terraform here, which means we'll be installing Terraform also. So the idea here is, because we have to install these tools, they cannot be installed on Windows. That's not even possible. For example, if you do Kubernetes, Kubernetes is not even compatible with Windows. The same way Docker can be done on Windows using a lot of layers, but Docker was never intended for Windows. The same way Jenkins can be installed on Windows, but nobody runs Jenkins on Windows. Git can be installed both on Windows and Unix. We will see both of them. So majority of the DevOps tool you will be installing on Linux only. So it makes sense to learn a little bit of Linux so that your other areas in DevOps are more interview oriented. You are unable to see our screen. Why is it? Hold on, guys. Did I share my screen properly or not? I am sharing my screen. Naveen, can you log off and log in again? Are others able to see my screen, guys? Lokesh, voice is little low. Yeah, I'm trying to fix that, Lokesh. Sorry, give me a day or two. I'll fix that, Lokesh.
Sir, now okay, sir. I'll see, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back, so I really request you to get a little hands-on on Linux. Even if you haven't got any time, I recommend you actually pick this course, my own course. This is a quick course, whatever way you want it. This is a pretty good one. I prepared it long back. So you pick it up. If you need a discount code or something, it comes very cheap, 100 or 200 rupees. So let me know if you need a code for that. You pick it up and you finish it. It's a 5-hour course. You don't need all the 5 hours. You need about 3 hours. Just the videos, even if you watch it, it's pretty much what we've done. Otherwise, you can take the same videos of this class from DURGASOFT. So contact the admin, Muskan. I think she's on this call, so she will be able to help you out with that thing. Satya, the problem is not with volume. I think it's already full volume. Yeah, let me take it to 100. That would be my headphones, not the mic. Mic is already 100%, but the problem is not really with the mic. Fix it. Is it better now? If it is better, we are good. If it is not better, please excuse me for today. I'll get it fixed by tomorrow. I'm getting a new mic. You are having problem joining Telegram link. What's the problem? What's the problem? XM. I think I'm seeing your mobile name over there. But
this mobile number does not register, sir.
okay, let me post that link in that case to the chart itself. All right. If nothing else, I haven't posted anything else. If you need this image and syllabus, those things are also available at a public link. Let me post that link also. Yeah, whatever we are basically dealing here, except the videos, you will have other things that we are dealing here. You'll have it here. Let me post it to chart. That's a chart window. So everything that I'm normally uploading is usually at this location. You will be able to download all the notes and images and everything. So this is the class notes that I am writing here. All right, everything that I'm seeing here is in the class notes. Other things are also available here. This is the image that I just uploaded over there. So all these things, you can get it from this bit.ly link. So please keep a copy of that thing, or if at all you could not reach me or you missed that chart, this is a Telegram link that all the class members are available. Only for this class, I just created it to give information to you guys quickly. So just log into this thing and let me know if you need something. I will give that information. Now coming back, please make sure you somehow get a hold of Linux. And the reason why we need Linux is we will be needing installation of these tools. Now, these are some of the tools. The exact list of the tools is available in our syllabus book. So the tools that our order of things that we will be doing is we'll first start with an introduction to DevOps. We will try to understand why DevOps came into picture. See, DevOps is a recent phenomenon. Most popular it became in 2015, especially after middleware went out of phase, and also when cloud started to become more and more popular. So we'll try to understand what happened 5 years before or 8 years before that led to something called DevOps. Then we will also try to understand what are the various tools which are part of this DevOps. I've just shown you an image, right? This image represents only part of the DevOps. This is not really a full list of tools. Let me open that again. This image is just part of the DevOps tools. I'm going to show you a complete list of DevOps tools, and we will understand what is the purpose of each one of those tools. And once you understand the purpose of each one of those tools, you will also realize why DevOps is popular. Now, to understand this whole process, we're going to learn something called software development lifecycle. That also we will talk about. SDLC, software development lifecycle. All right. We will try to understand what is software development lifecycle and how this is basically related to DevOps. They both are related. Software development lifecycle is a generic word. DevOps is one way of doing this software development. In our context, we will see what are the key things in DevOps. Which of these tools can get you a job quickly? That is one area. And once we discuss the DevOps part, we will see how it relates to AWS, guys. Remember, DevOps has its own set of jobs, but nowadays, most of the projects, they actually look for one cloud. Any one cloud is okay. But right now, the most popular one is AWS or Azure, one of these two. In fact, Azure DevOps is very popular. It has its own positions open. So if you know just Azure DevOps without Azure Cloud, you will know that. Now in this class, most likely I will try to quickly give you a glimpse of Azure DevOps towards the end of this whole course. Once we understand the generic DevOps. All right. It's like, when you know generic stuff, learning a specific thing, this one. Like let's say you know driving, so you know the basics of driving, you know how to drive any vehicle. But let's say you have to drive a big, very long container truck, it requires little more training, probably a 2 or 3 days training, that kind of thing this is. So we will see Azure DevOps towards the end. In between, we will do DevOps first, then we'll move a little bit into AWS. Now in DevOps, we'll be dealing with these tools. After the introduction, we will get into some of the prerequisites. And in these prerequisites, we will do this whole installation on AWS. Let me draw this image. All our images are already in our PPT. So let me take another Google thing here. This is our location. So I'll open another Google slide. In these slides, we're going to keep everything. All the images and visualizations related to DevOps. Earlier, we already have it. So that is for Linux. So let's keep it for DevOps AWS. I'll add a nice visual to this. So let's call it DevOps. AWS. The first one is going to be nice tool. Why we need DevOps. So DevOps is basically a set of tools. What is DevOps? We haven't talked about. We will talk about what is DevOps. Right now, let's stick to why we need AWS for learning DevOps. So let's say as part of DevOps, we are learning some tools. So you're learning Git installation, then you're learning Jenkins installation. Then you're probably learning Ansible or Kubernetes or Docker, any of these things. So I'm going to list out the 5 major things that we're going to learn. Only the major things. Minor things, we will add it later. So you will require the very first thing, GitHub. That's mandatory. Then Jenkins, you're going to require. Then Docker. Without these 3 things, there is no DevOps. Then Terraform, it's good to have. You will get a job. Kubernetes, it's marvelous if you have it. Guaranteed job. Now these things, GitHub or Jenkins or Docker, these are softwares, or just like a software that we have on our laptop. We are using VS Code here, or I'm using Notepad+. These are softwares, right? Now we have to download and install these softwares. That's the question here. So what are where we are going to install these softwares? We need a Linux machine or a Windows machine, right? So that Linux and Windows machine is what is going to come to you from AWS. So we will log into AWS. On the AWS, we're going to create multiple Linux machines. These are called virtual machines, are very specifically. So this thing, assume this is our AWS account. In AWS, we're going to create virtual machines. They're called VMs. VM is a generic word, and in AWS, they are specifically called EC2. Or in other words, they're called ECC, Elastic Compute Cloud, or Elastic Cloud Compute. So you have one VM where we can install Jenkins. You have another VM where we're going to install Docker. Then we're going to install Git everywhere. Then we have another VM where we install Terraform. Then we have a couple of other VMs where we install Kubernetes. Now all these VMs together will actually form your DevOps. Now obviously we cannot get these many VMs if I'm doing it on my own laptop, or even for you, if you are practicing on your own laptop, you cannot get these virtual machines. You do not have sufficient RAM and hard disk and CPU on your laptop. So we need some place where we can create these machines. And that's what we're going to use AWS for. We can use AWS to create these virtual machines. We can use GCP, Google Cloud also, to create these virtual machines. We can use Azure also to create these virtual machines. In fact, we can use Oracle Cloud also to create these virtual machines. They're all going to be free virtual machines that you can create to do this practice. So we're going to learn generic DevOps on AWS Cloud. That's the reason we will start with what is DevOps and what these tools will do. Then we will move on to AWS little bit. So we will understand what is cloud in general, why the cloud is so popular now. Then we will see the very basics of how to create an EC2 instance, how to connect to that instance, and then we will get back to our DevOps, installation of GitHub, installation of Jenkins, installation of Docker, these things. All right, make sense? Please post to the chat that you understood what our flow. Let me put this into a new slider here. Please, you have to understand why we're going to shift back and forth. That's really important. We're going to start with DevOps, but to do the DevOps, we're going to need a cloud. That's something that you have to understand. So once we have an introduction to AWS, let me close this thing. All right, this is AMS. All right. So once we understand the basics of our basic tools of DevOps, then we'll get into AWS. We create our account so that you can create your accounts, and then in those accounts, you can create these virtual machines and start implementing these tools. That's the requirement that we. Now, when we do that, it's possible. Just give me one. Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry about that. I'm back. So yeah, somebody asked me why we are learning those things. Ritik, why we are using all these tools. This question you will be able to understand answer to this question. Why we're learning these tools, and probably there are some more tools along with this. Why we are learning these tools is once we understand what is DevOps, especially from this image that we have just pulled out. What is DevOps? Once we understand this thing, especially you see this thing, this 8-like picture. This is basically DevOps core. Now to implement this core principle, you need all these tools. So once you understand this core principle, learning these tools or why we are learning these tools or what tools we should learn will become clear to you. So this list of tools that you are looking at, some of these are old tools, they are gone. Like Chef is gone. It's not used by anybody anymore. Nagios is gone. There are better tools than Nagios. Maven, some people use it, but a lot of people have moved to Gradle also. And that's more likely a developer thing, especially for Java developers than for DevOps guys. So CodeShip is recently being used, which actually does the whole DevOps thing. So we will understand why we are learning so many tools if we understand DevOps. And more importantly, how many of these tools should I learn? That's another question that a lot of people have confusion. So why so many tools? That's one question. Second thing, what are the tools that I should learn? Remember, guys, the objective of learning this whole thing is to get a job. Or if you're already working, probably, get a better package. That's the primary objective of learning all these things. We're not learning it just for the fun of it. Technology is pretty boring. You don't have to have fun in technology. There are nice movies to watch or Netflix series you can watch if you want entertainment. Technology by definition is really boring. You have to sit for hours to learn even anything. Nowadays, everything is complicated. So you have to stick to only those tools that will get you a job. And you should be able to discard all the tools that are not necessary. And that's what I have included as part of this course. If you see this thing, the primary objective of this course is not to teach you theory. So I usually avoid theory. We stick to all practicals. So here, by the time we reach, after we finish the introduction, you understand why we are doing these things or what kind of things we should do. Then we will do the basic AWS setup so that we can install these tools. Then we will get into virtualization. And this is what I was just now talking about, EC2 instances. EC2 instances are basically virtual machines. I just now use this word, right? VM, virtual machine. Now this setup is basically a setup if you are doing it on your laptop. But for the tools that we do, I don't think you will have enough laptop CPU and memory to do this. So nobody is installing Vagrant or VirtualBox on their laptops anymore. Instead, because AWS is cheap now, and there are a lot of other clouds that have come up. Let me show you quickly what are the various clouds we have. I'm going to write down and then quickly go through each one of them, their website. The most popular one is obviously AWS. Next one is Azure. These two have the potential to get you a job. All right. After this is coming Google Cloud. It's called GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Then Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is there. IBM has a cloud that is also okay. Apart from that, there are a lot of other smaller clouds. Linode is one thing. DigitalOcean is one thing. Vultr is one thing. Edgener is one thing. These are some of the clouds, not very popular, but they can get you some decent free virtual machines. AWS even though very popular, it won't give you anything useful. So once we understand AWS, most likely we're going to go to GCP. GCP gives you $300 credit for 3 months. Means you can set up pretty big virtual machines on GCP. So what we are going to do is we will understand what is generic cloud, and we're going to use probably 1 or 2 of these clouds. Now for this to happen, you should have either a debit card. They won't charge you anything, but they will require it for verification. If you have debit card, AWS will work. Preferably a credit card for creating a free account. Without a credit card, it's very unlikely that you will be able to create an account. So see if you can have a credit card. Anybody's credit card is okay. You're not going to get charged. We will be using only the amount that they give us, but you will need it for verification. So see in the next couple of days if you can get hold of a credit card from one of your friends or anything. Laptop configuration, I will come to that point with it, but I don't recommend going by a laptop configuration. It's really a very big configuration. You won't be able to install it, but I'll come to the laptop configuration probably later. I don't recommend it. I would rather say you get a debit card or credit card. You will be able to do on a cloud much cheaper without any cost pretty much. So once that is done, we will go into the basic setup of how Vagrant works. This is important. This will give you an understanding of what is virtual machines, how clouds work, all that stuff. At this point, we will see IP, RAM, CPU, those kind of things. All right. After that is done, we thought we will set up a basic project. That initial project I had was vProfile project. We will either set this project up or we will set up another project. That project is basically your end-to-end DevOps project. So it's not like we are learning these tools one after the other. You have to learn and understand how these tools are used together. That is DevOps. It's like, let's say you are making a nice curry, and if you know only each ingredient separately, it's fine, means you have some knowledge, but you should know how to mix them together to make a nice tasting curry. If you don't know how to mix them together in the correct quantities and in correct order, you can't really make a nice curry. It's the same thing with DevOps. Learning individual tools is not going to be helpful. So in an interview, they will not ask you individual tools. They will first ask you, tell me the project structure, then tell me about each tool that you are using in that project. And your learning will be useful to you only if you learn it that way. So that's why we're going to introduce a rough DevOps project, end-to-end project. In that project, you will understand what are the various tools available and how do they fit. Means what is the first tool, what is the second tool, what is the third tool, what is the fourth tool, like that. So we're going to see a rough project, not necessarily a perfect project. So that's our next object. So DevOps project is also called a CI/CD project. We will understand what is CI/CD, why DevOps is called CI/CD once we reach there. Now in this DevOps project, most likely you're going to have GitHub, then Jenkins, then optionally Nexus, then you're going to have Docker, and you're going to have your Kubernetes and Terraform. These are essential. Now, Kubernetes could be something that is a little scary, but this can actually get you a job. So even though it's a little scary, instead of giving you all the useless things, I thought I will at least start this thing for you. you go out there and you talk about it, you can get a job quickly. For Kubernetes, you require Docker. Jenkins and GitHub are essential, basics. Terraform, this has a potential to get you a job. Terraform is linked with AWS again. So we will learn Terraform only if we know AWS. Otherwise, Terraform is useless. But we will understand what is Terraform. And once we get into AWS, we will go deeper into Terraform. So both DevOps and AWS are DevOps and cloud are interlinked, guys. So wherever DevOps takes precedence, I will come to DevOps part. If it requires certain amount of AWS, I will cover that on AWS also. All right. The objective here again is to get a job. So we're going to focus on real time only. Only real time. So you're going to remove all unnecessary theory. Now, as part of this, because we are setting this whole DevOps project, I'm going to set it up on a cloud and all of you will have access. So except installation is something that you can do on your own virtual machines, or I will set up some virtual machines you can use temporarily. But once the installation is done, the project, all of you will have access. Which means if I install Jenkins, everybody will have access to Jenkins. Then whatever we do on Jenkins, the configuration of Jenkins, using Jenkins for running other things, everybody can do along with me on the same server that I am doing. So this is not really a theory class. I'm expecting that you work hand in hand with me, just the same way we did for Linux. You have access to the whole server. You are actually doing or working in the same area that I have worked. So let me show it to you quickly. This was our Linux server that we've been working on. The mobile extern, this is the Linux server. All right. So these are the various files you guys have created. This is a whole Linux and bash scripting. These are list of scripts we have created. Some of you are created, these are created by you. Wonderful job. Now I expect the same kind of involvement in DevOps also. So by the time we finish this course, I want you to at least get some hands-on on these things. I'm not asking you to create your own account. Even if you don't have an AWS account, it's still fine. You will be able to do 80% of required DevOps in the same project that I'm doing. All right. So please come with a mindset that you are trying to do hands-on. I'm more than happy to answer your questions when you are doing hands-on. I'm more than happy to troubleshoot if you get into a problem, but I really want you to get your hands dirty. Only then you will understand DevOps. Otherwise, you won't understand the concepts and it's pretty useless. For example, learning theory is not really useful. When you learn only theory, your interview answers also sound theory only. They don't sound practical. Somebody asks you how to install Docker. If you only know theory, your answer will sound theory only. But somebody who has installed Docker, their answer will be completely different. So please understand that you will be working along with me. It's okay if you don't have an AWS account. You can work on the same infrastructure that I am providing. I'll try to do it on another cloud, probably GCP. All that I'm requesting you guys is see if you can get hold of a credit card. You don't need money in the credit card. It just has to be a valid credit card, a Visa card or a MasterCard, not the RuPay card. RuPay cards will not work. So either Visa or MasterCard, only these things. RuPay will not work. RuPay is also a credit card. So one of these two, you will be able to create a lot of accounts in all the clouds that I given. You will get a lot of free money. I'll give you all those tips. And once you have understood how to create these accounts and how to use these accounts, for the rest of your life, you would never have to have anything on your laptop. These systems, these clouds, they have so much money. They are giving you a lot of things free of cost. You can run your whole infrastructure free of cost on these clouds. I'll tell you how to do that. But just try to get a hold of a credit card if possible. Debit card is okay. That will work with AWS for now. So that's our project, guys. Networking, we need to know a little bit of networking, especially protocols and ports. That's really important. We have talked about this thing in our Linux, especially when we talked how the internet works. Let me just recollect your memory. Are we covering how to create AWS account? Yes, Satya, we will be covering how to create AWS. So let me refresh your memory on how the internet works. That is networking, basically. It's part of our images. Those who haven't attended Linux, you guys can actually look through this slideshow. It will give you a quick glimpse of what things we have talked about. This is not internet. It's like this is how the internet works. Where is it? This one? Yeah, we talked about IPs, port numbers, and how they together are called a socket, and how you access from your laptop a Linux server. And on the Linux server, if you have a Apache server, which serves on port 80, or a Tomcat server, which serves on 8080, or a SSH daemon, which serves on 2022. The same way, you can have a Jenkins server, which is a Tomcat internally. So this also, Jenkins also run 8080. You can have a Docker on the same server. Then you can have whole Kubernetes on the same server. So the principles are same. So you are sitting on a different laptop, something like this. You need to connect to your process using its IP port. That's a whole networking. So this diagram we're going to recover again one more time when we actually start dealing with Jenkins, Docker, and Kubernetes, so that you are able to quickly understand the fundamentals and then also easy for troubleshooting. So that's our networking part. All right. This is extremely important for troubleshooting, guys. If you don't understand the networking part, probably you won't be able to troubleshoot anything. After that, we will get into containers directly. We are not going to get into Jenkins initially. Instead, we will get into containers, because Jenkins can be done using containers. So that's the latest trend. We're not installing Jenkins directly on the laptops. Instead, we're going into containers. So we will be using containerized Jenkins. But for that, you have to understand what is a container and how containers and Docker are related to each other. So Docker is basically one software that can create containers. And just like Docker, there are other softwares like Podman, Kata. Podman is another software that can create containers. Kata is another software that can create containers. So there are a couple of other things. Now, out of those things, Docker is the most popular one. So we'll be learning Docker. And if you know Docker, it's usually more than enough. Then once we understand the containers, this thing is SDLC process. I think I'll cover most of these things at the beginning itself. And once after containers, Docker is done, we will get into GitHub. After GitHub, we will get back to generics, Apache and Apache Tomcat. We will see the difference between Apache HTTPD and Apache Tomcat server. These are the most popular servers that are being used at this point of time. All websites most likely has Apache HTTPD server, or you will come across another name called Nginx. It's pronounced Nginx. So Nginx and HTTPD are same. So one of these two is fine. And if you are into Java, you will require a Tomcat server. So we will see how to set up these HTTPD and Tomcat servers quickly, then how to containerize them, how to install them. Now, the reason why we do this is these two servers themselves are not really important. But by using these servers, you will understand how to work in a DevOps environment, how to set up a AWS instance, how to install a software, how to access the software, and then how you do the deployments, means how do you integrate these things with the code given by the developers. After that is done, we will get into the core of your DevOps, which is Jenkins. Nexus is a secondary part, which usually comes along with Jenkins. Nowadays, Nexus is also moving out. Nexus is basically a storage. Instead of Nexus, a lot of people are using S3, but we will learn Nexus itself. So once we understand, this is a core thing. Once we understand this, we will get into these two things at a time, Terraform and Kubernetes. Terraform, basically, we will initiate Terraform here, but we'll go deep into Terraform during our AWS learning. Kubernetes is little heavy, guys. I won't lie to you, it's heavy, but I will cover enough topics for you to talk about Kubernetes. Means if somebody asks you what is Kubernetes, you will be able to say, I started learning Kubernetes recently. I know these concepts. So then you go ahead and talk about some 5 or 6 concepts out of the 10 that I'll discuss. So I will take this as an optional one. I really don't think that this can be understood. This is a very extensive, in-depth technical topic. It requires a lot of knowledge on storage, knowledge on networking, and also requires a lot of knowledge on CI/CD. So I'll try to get you to the point of talking Kubernetes so that you can get a good positive view in your interviews. But if you have to work on Kubernetes, probably you will have to take another course from somebody else or probably from me. But this course is not in-depth Kubernetes. All right. Once that is done, we will get into AWS. So AWS part I will talk later, but you have this entire AWS syllabus here, which basically covers pretty much everything, all the key areas of AWS. So that's a DevOps thing and our approach, guys. The key points here is it's a hands-on thing. We will stick to practical areas and you get an opportunity to work along with me on the same infrastructure that I'm working on. And there is a requirement, prerequisite. So please try to get preferably a credit card, either Visa card or MasterCard. If not a debit card, again, Visa or MasterCard, nothing else. So that you can create any of these accounts and you can start working on those. Now, creating these accounts it will give you a feel of the cloud. It will help you understand the concept. You can't always listen to theory and understand things. It's not possible. So we are getting an opportunity to get a hands-on on it. So we'll try to get it. I'll be there along with you during this whole, theory, execution, all those things. If at all you are stuck somewhere, I'll take you along with me. All right. So that's a generic flow that we're going to go ahead, guys. So we'll start the actual work from tomorrow onwards. The process is going to be the same. The class starts at 6 o'clock, 6:05, and we're going to have till 7:10 every day. All the class notes are usually here. So every day we have class notes. It's accessible immediately. This is where the entire theory part is there. All visuals, diagrams, and everything will be in our PPT. the one that I have created just now. This is a Google Doc. You will have access to the Google Doc also, this one. All images, everything that we talk about, they are usually available to you, but we have shared that thing. So this is a drive, you will have access to the drive. The videos are not controlled by me. I don't have access to the videos. So videos will also be given to you. Everything is recorded and you will have videos. And those will be given to you by Muskan. She's on this call. You can talk to her. The next thing is basically infrastructure. So while you're working with me, you have the DevOps Cloud project. Even after this project is done, I'm setting up another website. That website basically has all the tools. I'm going to put all the tools for you guys to access even in future also for your practice. All right. So that's all I have for now. We'll continue tomorrow with our DevOps thing. Some questions here. Ritik is asking, Linux is complete. Can you send some interview questions? Yeah. In fact, I have a bunch of interview questions. I'll send it by tomorrow, Ritik. I'll send it to all of you. I'll post it to our Telegram channel also. So you have an interview question. I also have some quizzes, guys. You can actually attempt those quizzes. They're fun quizzes. So I'll give you those links also, online quizzes. What's the duration of this course? Afzal, DevOps and cloud together. I'm looking at 3 months. Probably it will extend by another 15 days. And then you got real-time project for practice. Yes, Nitin, there will be a real-time project for practice. We will be building that project. And while we are building that project, you can access the same project. And for practice, we will have another infrastructure that you can access. Those details also I'll give you while we are building this DevOps project. Naveen, you have a question. Go ahead, Naveen.
Sir, actually shown the DevOps lifecycle diagram, sir. There we can mention the around 10 to 12 tools, right, sir?
This one, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Is there mandatory to learn all the tools or only specific tools to learn to get the job, sir?
These tools are mandatory. So let me show you. These are mandatory.
Okay, only 5 you saying about, right?
Even Kubernetes is also okay, but these 4 are mandatory.
So only for the making the project purpose, they're using mandatory for those tools, right, sir?
Correct. So yeah, you need these 4 tools to even set up a basic project also.
Okay.
These are mandatory. Yeah. Kubernetes is more like a cherry. I mean, so you are they'll pick up your resume really quickly if you have Kubernetes, because not many people in any of the projects know Kubernetes. So if somebody knows even basic Kubernetes, they'll still get selected.
Okay, sir. Fine. Got it, sir. Thank you.
Terraform is also something that is very popular nowadays because everybody is working with clouds. So it's kind of became mandatory. Couple of years before, it used to be like Kubernetes, means if you know Terraform, they'll quickly pick you up. But now they're asking it's mandatory. If you don't know, they won't pick you.
So one more thing, sir. Are you going to learn? Are you going to teach like Ansible or Chef, sir?
Nothing. None of those two. I removed both of them and included Terraform.
Okay.
Chef is extremely old. Nobody uses.
Yeah.
Even Ansible, after Terraform came in, people stopped using Ansible.
Okay.
So in favor of Terraform, I have removed Ansible.
Okay, sir. Fine. Okay.
So there's no point in just beefing up the course because it's not going to be useful for getting you a job. So I would rather say you focus on Kubernetes, the same efforts. It will have more longevity for you and better opportunities.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Sir, I have a request. Can you please teach and Kubernetes also, sir? It is not optional. It is mandatory, sir. I'm requesting. Yeah.
If I teach Kubernetes, the length of this course will go really deep. And so it
Of
will
course.
increase probably by 15, 20 days.
Yeah.
Kubernetes, we have to teach really slowly, really slow. Otherwise,
Okay.
you know, kind of you lose it. If you guys are okay, I'm okay with it.
Yes, yes. You mentioned some of the topics in PDF content, right? Can you please those
Yeah.
things?
If
Yeah.
you guys are okay, generally what I do is, you know, we have I think some of you know me probably. I run a very popular course at Encode IT, job-oriented program. We are probably, you know, number one over there. So what we normally recommend, or even I do personally, is after GitHub is done and Jenkins Docker is done, I directly go to Kubernetes. Or usually I introduce Kubernetes somewhere here, just the basics. Then we go into Jenkins Docker, then we come back to Kubernetes again. So that way what happens is, you have a feeling like I know Kubernetes for a very long time. You start to think, okay, I've learned Kubernetes for 2 months, even though you haven't learned. It's like mathematics. How long you know mathematics? Probably 25 years. That's the only reason you are confident about mathematics. Not that you are better than a kid. You and me have the same skill set as a 10th class or probably intermediate kid in mathematics, elementary mathematics. But we feel more confident about mathematics because of the time. So the same way, the simple technique is, if you start Kubernetes early, means here, just introduce what is Kubernetes, then leave it apart. Move ahead with Jenkins, Docker, and probably other things. We have Vagrant, other things, right? Finish all those things, and then come back to Kubernetes. Your Kubernetes overall exposure and also your confidence will increase tenfold. And your resume can actually put Kubernetes. For example, let me tell you simple. Jenkins. If you don't know Kubernetes, you have to install Jenkins directly on a virtual machine. All right, an EC2 instance. But if you know Kubernetes, you install Jenkins on top of Kubernetes. Now, in an interview, if you say you have installed Jenkins on top of Kubernetes, pretty much your interview is done. They take you in. Not many people know how to install Jenkins on Kubernetes. So your basic exposure is more than enough. But that's a risk. Not everybody can understand Kubernetes. It's a little complicated. And it has to be done only on cloud. You cannot do it on your laptop. Of course, I can give you some access to some of the Kubernetes, but it complicates everything. So we'll see how things can go on. We will see after a week. Now, if you guys are interested, if everybody is okay, we may introduce Kubernetes at the little beginning, and then we take it also towards the end, just to increase your chances of understanding Kubernetes, therefore increase your chances of getting a job fast. We'll see.
Yes, sir. We are interested. Sir. We are interested.
Yeah, we'll see how it can be done the best way for you guys.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, I have one more query. Nagios and Splunky, we in most of the companies are using, right, sir? Nagios and Splunk.
Nagios is an old tool. Now Nagios is replaced by Jdbc. So you won't learn. Nagios is not used anymore. Jdbc is used. Even Jdbc is gone now. So
I think
is
Prometheus, right? Prometheus, Grafana.
Prometheus, Grafana, different. See, Prometheus is for metrics. That is used. So Prometheus basically gets you metric data. What it means is it gets you CPU, those things. Jdbc is basically logs and other stuff. So you will, the current stack is for monitoring, but the current stack is Nagios is gone. Nobody uses Nagios. Jdbc, some people use it. Then Prometheus. And every time Prometheus is there, Grafana will be there for graphs. So this is basically for metrics. Then logs is another tool. So Jdbc is going away in terms of this logs tools. We have Elk. Elk is replaced with Elk is basically Elasticsearch. log stash, Hibernate. This is out of this, the log stash is replaced with FluentD now. So now EFK is more popular. That's for metrics. This is for logs. Then there is something called traces. Nowadays, recently coming up. That is, there is only one product available for this one, Jaeger. This is basically used by all developers, Springboard, or you have JSP framework, or Python and Django framework. Any of the developers basically use Jaeger for traces, but it's not popular yet because it's still evolving. These two are popular. This is going out. This is almost gone. These are all open source. Now there are some proprietary ones. You have New Relic. You have to pay, but it's a nice one. Then you have Datadog. That's also a good one. Then you have Dynatrace. That's also a good one. So these, maybe we will quickly do New Relic if at all we get a chance. They have a free part. We can easily create an account and integrate our servers to monitor and then visualize it. To get a job, you will require one of these, understanding of these two tools also, because DevOps without monitoring, there's nothing. You will be asked a couple of questions. All right, so that's some of those things. If we have missed anything, we will see. Any other questions?
Yes, yes, sir. Splunk, sir. Splunk.
Splunk is similar to one of these tools, but Splunk was really what is called operational intelligence. Operational intelligence is what Splunk has started their monitoring. So when Nagios was there, Splunk became very popular. Now Splunk is not really that popular after this New Relic, Datadog, and Dynatrace came up. Well, the reason is Splunk is, you have to install it on your own. Means you have to manage Splunk. Whereas these three tools, they are SaaS products, means they have all the infrastructure. You can send the logs to their infrastructure and you can monitor everything. So Splunk was bought probably, till last year or 1 year before. But now the cost of Splunk is too high. So they are not using anything. They are not using Splunk anymore. So no new Splunk people. Everybody moves to New Relic, Datadog, or Dynatrace, or they are implementing these tools on their own. So Splunk, but Splunk does have a lot of jobs, guys. So these Splunk guys are moving to other areas. So the migration projects have jobs. If you already know Splunk, it's good. But if you don't know Splunk, it doesn't make sense to learn Splunk. Instead, you learn some of these things. This is a very fast moving area. So when you learn something, you understand the fundamentals of it so that when a new product comes up, the same fundamentals apply. So the same thing like Jdbc. Jdbc is similar to what Nagios has, but it has better way to do it. Prometheus is completely different. This is the first of its kind. It basically collects time metrics. Logs, ELK is also slightly different, but it is mainly for microservices, distributed environments. All right, any other questions?
Sir, you are saying operational intelligence means like what is that?
Operational intelligence is basically, the image you are looking for. You see this thing, these images? They tell you where the problem is, even before the problem occurs. Or they tell you a potential problem. Like let's say you have a serious throat infection and you are coughing a lot. That's a symptom that you are about to fall sick in the next 2-3 days, right? You're going to get fever, probably you will be hospitalized. Those things means You have to start taking precautions now. That's what exactly operational intelligence means. Means they will give you information, or in other words, intelligence related to your operations, so that using that intelligence, you can make sure your operations are not impacted. That's what Splunk does. So Splunk tells you something is about to go wrong, and it does it by looking at a lot of parameters. So basically it's saying it's like our RA, Research and Analysis Wing, our Intelligence Bureau of India. What do? They tell us that something is going to go wrong somewhere. Let's say there is a terrorist attack, or there is some other flood coming, somebody else is infiltrating. So they give the intelligence. The same way, Splunk gives the intelligence so that your operations and your infrastructure are protected. Even before something happens, you can predict it and take precautions. That's operational intelligence. Now, all these products do the same thing. They give operational intelligence nowadays. They're like Datadog, Dynatrace. Even these tools are also used for operational intelligence. Now AI has come in. So these tools are currently being integrated with AI. So what actually happens is, till now, if there is a problem, these tools will tell us what the problem is. And the DevOps engineer has to give a solution or implement a solution. Now what is happening is, they'll tell you the problem. They will also tell you a possible solution. And the AI part of this will actually implement that solution, which means your DevOps job, at least part of your job, is taken over by an AI agent, which means you have to be much more smarter than what you are currently are in future. Currently, we are at the edge of AI. Means if you know basics of Kubernetes probably, or basics of these tools, you'll get a job. But 5 years down the line, I'm predicting, if you know only basics, it's not sufficient, because that basic solution will be provided by the AI tool itself. You have to do better than AI tool. That's one risk all of you have. Hardik, yeah, I will refer to a lot of companies, but that's fine. You don't really need reference if you know Kubernetes. I can give you, a lot of ways you can get a lot of calls. So don't worry about the calls. Shiva, you're new to class, you're missing Linux. Shiva, there are two ways. Either you can take up the Udemy course that I have given, or you check with DURGASOFT and see if you can get that, get our Linux videos. One of these two methods. All right, so that's all, guys. Thank you very much. Sorry for a little late. We are running. I think some of you had classes also. So we'll start tomorrow, 6 o'clock, and usually we'll finish by 7:10. All right. That's our regular schedule. We'll stick to that thing. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Any questions? I'll answer tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you.